Hello and welcome everyone. I am so glad that you are here for today's Resilient JD seminar. My name is Autumn Noble and I am a life and career coach working exclusively with women attorneys. I'm the founder of the Lawyer Life Collective, host of the Lawyer Life podcast, and author of the Lawyer Life Survival Guide. That is all a mouthful. While I do still practice law, my heart has really led me in a different direction, and I spend the vast majority of my time helping women find their own unique space in the legal industry. My own legal career has led me all over the place. I have worked at law firms of all shapes and sizes. I've built a practice group from the ground up and then later served as its chair and shareholder. I have taught legal courses in business schools and I've also taught in law schools. I eventually went in-house with a Fortune 300 company, and after that, I left and built my own firm. So needless to say, most of the struggles that my clients are going through, I have been there. And not only have I been there, but I have helped women all over the world going through the same types of struggles in the legal industry work their way through them and create their own unique space. I am so excited to be here with you today. And before we dig into this topic, I want to pose a little bit of a question to you that we're going to come back to at the end. And that question is, have you ever wondered why we often know what to do, but yet we don't do it? We're going to answer that question today. Specifically, I want to talk to you about something that is deeply relevant, not only to your legal career, but your personal life. And that is how our beautiful brains are essentially programmed to lead us into self-sabotage and prevent our evolution and success. I'm going to explore with you today how our brains actually work against us more often than not, reinforcing limiting belief and confirming old biases, and how to start shifting those patterns. Our brains are always running unconscious programs, patterns of thoughts and behaviors that were historically designed to protect us. But today, when we leave those programs unchecked, they will often keep you stuck in fear, burnout, or self-doubt. So let's begin with just a basic understanding of how our brain works. And that brings us to program number 1, the Motivational Triad. The Motivational Triad tells us why our brains fight change so strongly. Our brains were designed to do primarily 3 things: seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. And that last one, conserving energy, is really the sneaky one because it's at the root of all of our patterns and habits. Our brain loves to automate things in order to conserve energy. So once it finds any kind of a pattern, whether it's helpful or harmful, it turns it into a habit. In doing so, it frees up energy for other tasks. That's why a lot of our day-to-day thinking really feels automatic. It's how you can leave the office, drive home, and 20 minutes later, you have no idea exactly how you got there and didn't really consciously think about taking that left turn followed by a right turn. We just do it because our brains have recognized the pattern and sort of relegated it to the background, and it just runs automatically. This is also why change is so hard. When you're trying something new, even something that you want to do, like setting boundaries, standing up for yourself, utilizing more self-care, even going to the gym every once in a while, your brain sees it as a deviation from the patterns that it knows and the patterns that it likes and feels really good with. Because remember, another part of this program is that your brain wants to avoid pain. So any deviation from the pattern not only violates the routine and conserving energy part of the program, but it sets us up for discomfort and pain, which again, our brain is designed to avoid within this program. This is why every time we try and do something new, your brain throws up all sorts of red flags and starts to explain to you why you shouldn't do this. You just don't have enough time. I don't really want to. I guess I don't really care about it that much. I just had a really long day. I'm just really tired. I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. All of those thought patterns, they're not necessarily true. It's really our brain's biological way of trying to keep us safe. And never mind the fact that our logical prefrontal cortex had already decided it wants to do these things, set boundaries, go to the gym, take better care of ourselves, right? We already decided that we want that. But in the moment, our biological brain and that desire to stay safe, maintain consistency, and conserve energy, that part of you kicks in and starts convincing you and telling you stories about why what you've already decided you want to do is no longer a good idea. And it feels uncomfortable and it talks us out of following through. So if you ever feel like you're stuck and you just can't develop new habits or new behaviors or change the way that you've been showing up, it has nothing to do with you if you're having a hard time following through. So first and foremost, I want you to hear me when I say there's nothing wrong with you. Our work instead is figuring out what is that habitual thinking pattern? What is that fear-based thought that the motivational triad is using to keep me from following through? The sooner we can start recognizing that patterning, the sooner we can work to deconstruct it, because that's the good news here. You can always change the pattern and try something new. But knowing that our brain is designed to keep us sort of stuck and resisting any change or discomfort is really helpful in allowing us to understand why we're having a hard time moving forward. With that knowledge, we can start deconstructing that pattern and creating new ones. With that in mind, I want to talk about program number 2 that our brains are running in the background, and that is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our brain's way of not just avoiding discomfort and pursuing routines. It's your brain's way of saying, you know what? I like to be right because that feels good. And there's a lot of discomfort that comes from being wrong or being proven wrong. And that is where confirmation bias steps in. It's your brain's way of protecting its current belief system, even if they're outdated or unhelpful, because changing them doesn't feel good and brings us out of the routine that program number 1 likes. And also, it brings up the possibility that we might be wrong, or maybe we've been doing things wrong or thinking about things wrong, and that doesn't feel good. Also violating motivational triad program number 1. So confirmation bias really kind of pairs together with a motivational triad and keeps us stuck in those old limiting beliefs and fear-based patterns. In its simplest terms, confirmation bias is your brain's way of seeking out only the evidence that supports what you already believe. I don't have time to go to the gym. I can't set boundaries. If I say no, people are going to be mad at me. Your brain is only going to look for evidence to support all of that, and it's going to ignore any evidence that contradicts it. And so it's a way of sort of using a lens to sift through the data in our life and ignoring every part of the data that doesn't align with what we're wanting to prove true. So for instance, if you believe or periodically think to yourself, I'm not cut out for a partner, I'm not partner material, that confirmation bias is going to run with that and look for every single piece of evidence in your career where you made a mistake or you had to ask for help or you stumbled through a presentation. It's going to pluck all of that data out of your history and serve it to you on a little platter and say, you know what, you're right. You're really not made to be partner. In doing that, your brain is also ignoring all those other pieces of data where you did do something really well and you had someone say to you, you know what, you're going to make a great partner one day, or you really do have what it takes. You're going to be an asset to the firm. All of that stuff, it's really easy to overlook because our brain wasn't designed to argue with itself. We gave our brain an instruction, I'm not cut out to make partner, and your brain in confirmation bias ran with it and collected data to prove it true. Good to know, right? We have to start paying a lot closer attention to the language we're using and the information we're feeding to our brain, knowing that it's going to run with it and prove it true. And furthermore, not only is it going to do that, but the more we think to ourselves, I'm not really cut out to make partner, I don't really have what it takes, that motivational triad is like, you know what, that's a pattern. That's a pattern that I know really well. And we're just going to run that thinking in the background like some really horrible elevator music. And it's just going to follow you around for the rest of your life. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not meant to be partner. I don't have what it takes. And it just runs in the background. So part of our work today is to sort of pull back that crappy elevator music and look at it and say, what am I carrying around with myself? And what are the stories I'm telling myself that I'm letting confirmation bias run with and prove to me? And now I've created a bunch of beliefs based upon thoughts that I wasn't even consciously and intentionally wanting to make a habit and wanting to make a pattern or even wanting to prove true. But I've sort of done this unintentionally and created a system where I truly believe at my core I don't have what it takes, and all I see is data to prove it. This knowledge is really important, I think, especially for attorneys, because we have been trained to look for problems, anticipate them, assume that risks are going to happen, and figure out how to work around them, right? We're sort of professional catastrophizers. But when we apply that to our personal life, to our abilities and our skill sets, you can kind of start to see how these two programs, Motivational Triad and Confirmation Bias, how they can combine to create a big fat disaster. Because here's what that creates for us: self-sabotage. The Motivational Triad, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, maintaining routines, along with confirmation bias, often work in tandem to create our own worst enemy and sabotage everything that we're wanting. And it might not be some big dramatic thing. It's often pretty subtle. For instance, for many of my clients, it looks like procrastinating on a big, ugly project. Why? Because it's hard, right? It doesn't feel good. That's the motivational triad, because we tell ourselves, I don't want to do that today. And your brain's like, you know what? You're right. You've got to do all these other things today. That's confirmation bias sweeping in. It could look like never finishing that newsletter article or that website or updating your resume, because all of that is new and scary and something different. And it could open us up to criticism or judgment. And that doesn't feel good. And it's a deviation from what we know. All of it sort of suggests that we might be moving on to something else and new and different. Motivational Triad doesn't like that. Confirmation bias sweeps in and tells us why all of those ugly fear-based thoughts are true, and it collects data to support it. Another one I often see is saying yes to everything and never saying no, even though you really want to. Why? Because saying no doesn't feel good. It brings a lot of fear-based thoughts. People are going to be mad at me. They're going to fire me. They're going to be disappointed in me. None of that feels good. And the motivational triad sweeps in and tells you, let's not do that. And it starts telling you all the reasons why those things are absolutely going to happen. And confirmation bias presents only that evidence. And so we sort of set ourselves up for burnout and self-sabotage because we're letting these programs sort of run unchecked in the background. And here's the crazy thing. The more we procrastinate on projects, avoid striking out on something new or creating a new life or pursuing a new path, or the more we don't stand up, set boundaries, say no when we mean it, now we're creating new patterns. Okay. And the motivational triad loves patterns. And so we start creating a belief system and an operating system that just creates this problem again and again and again, and nothing ever changes. And that's really why I think this information is so essential, because over time, this repetitive thinking and the confirmation bias that fuels it creates everything that we have or don't have in our life. It's why we have to pull all-nighters to get those things done when we procrastinate. It's why we never explore that other passion project or hobby. It's why we always create a cycle of burnout and recovery, because we have these patterns that we're not paying attention to. And they all come back to the initial thinking. And this is the most important piece I want you to take with you today. Everything you think creates an emotion in you. That emotion drives everything you do or don't do. And ultimately, those actions or inactions create your whole life. So when we allow the motivational triad and confirmation bias to run the show unchecked, it essentially creates the life that we have or the life that we don't have. And so the more we can start paying attention to the thought patterns and asking ourselves, why am I believing that? Where is that coming from? Is that something I really want to believe, or is it a fear-based thought that my biology is just offering up to me in this moment because it's something new. The more we can start challenging that thinking, the more we can take control and change our lives. So let's just take an example here. That big, scary project that you're procrastinating. We don't want to do it. Maybe we don't like the partner. Maybe we don't like the client. Maybe we don't like that kind of work, whatever it is. But there's a thought in there. I don't like them. I don't want to do this. This is going to be miserable. All of those thoughts create some type of resistance, right? They certainly don't create an emotion that's like, you know what, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do this. Okay. That emotion does not come from those thoughts. Those thoughts create emotions that drive us to avoid and procrastinate and create a bigger problem than we probably would have if we had just gotten started. In other words, it hurts a lot worse to do the project after procrastinating than it would have hurt just to sit down and chip away at it a little bit. But my point here is that action of procrastination and avoidance, it all came back to a thought and what emotions and actions flowed from that thought. Now, listen, it may be very true for you that you don't like that partner, you don't like that kind of work, or you don't like that client, or you really don't want to do it. And maybe you think it is going to be really hard. Maybe that's all true for you. It doesn't matter. What matters is what that thinking creates for you. Because when you put your energy behind that thought, it's going to start a chain reaction. So the choice then becomes, just because it's true for me that I don't want to do this project, is it helping me or is it hurting me? Is it furthering my goal of not having to pull an all-nighter and do shoddy work at the last minute? If that's my goal, putting energy behind, I don't want to do this. This is going to be hard, terrible. I hate the client. I hate the partner, whatever. While that may be true for you, it's not helpful. And it's not leading you in the direction that you want to go. So part of our work not only is being aware of how those fear-based, uncomfortable thoughts, they're going to come up because that's what your brain was designed to do. And then confirmation bias is going to give you all the proof as to why you need to believe that thought so strongly. But what I want you to do in that moment is recognize, okay, like I get it. I feel the fear. I understand what's coming up. I recognize the fear-based thoughts. I get it. I see you, motivational triad. I see you, confirmation bias. And just recognize it. And then ask yourself, is that line of thinking helping me to show up in alignment with who I want to be, or is it hurting me? And then from there, you have a choice to make. Instead, you could choose, you know what, I can figure out this project. I can chip away at it. Yes, I don't love the partner or the client or that kind of work, but I can figure this out little by little. It's not a real sexy thought, right? It doesn't feel great, but it's certainly going to help you to show up to do something other than procrastinating. But we can't get there if we don't start challenging those thoughts that come up and saying like, okay, my brain's telling me I don't want to do this. Why is it telling me that? Where is that coming from? And is that helpful? This is part of the reason that meditation is so core to myself and my coaching work and why I think it's so essential for our attorneys. We have to start divorcing the rapid thinking from who we actually are as humans and who we want to be. And the better we can get at that separation, the easier it is to start monitoring those thought patterns and sort of seeing what's coming up and why is that coming up? And do I want to put energy behind it? With that awareness and the answers to those questions, you can start rewiring those patterns despite that motivational triad. And from there, you can allow confirmation bias to work for you. Because when you practice thinking and develop a pattern of thinking, I can figure this out. Yeah, I don't like the partner, but I can chip away at it. Confirmation bias is going to swoop in and find out data and evidence to support that, which is a beautiful thing. This is what we do in the Lawyer Life Collective. This is what I coach my clients to do. Start paying attention and identifying those thought patterns so that we can dismantle them and start to understand why we don't have the life that we want and how to create the one that we actually do want. I want you to think back to that question that we started at the beginning, and that question of why is it that I often know what to do, but I don't do it? Now you know why. You're doing something scary, unusual, outside of the pattern. It brings up fear, any kind of discomfort. Your biological brain, it doesn't like that. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you're human. So your first work becomes just recognizing, okay, I see it. The fear thoughts, I see it. That's why I'm not doing the thing. And then asking yourself, if I did do it, if I did follow through, what would I need to be thinking, feeling, believing in that moment to show up the way that I want to? And can I access some of that thinking now? And maybe it sounds like I'm willing to give it a try. I'm willing to figure it out and see where that takes you. But at least now you know why we don't often show up and do the things that we know we need to do. Say no, set some boundaries, take care of ourselves, go to the gym. I hope this presentation has given you some information to understand why that is. To help you get started with this work, I'm giving all of you my Rewire Your Brain workbook. It's a self-guided tool that will allow you to start recognizing some of that repetitive thinking and give you the tools that you need to interrupt it and potentially create new patterns of thinking in a more positive direction. The workbook includes a quiz to help you get a sense of how much confirmation bias is playing an active role in your life. It also includes worksheets like a daily focus tracker to help you spot some of those recurring thoughts. It's amazing what you start to notice when you pay attention to what's happening up here and start asking, what is my crappy elevator music saying? And do I like that? It also includes a thought reframing worksheet to help kind of get the creative juices flowing and help you see if you can come up with some other thoughts that you believe that maybe generate an emotion and action in a different direction. If you want to take this work even deeper, for those of you that upgraded to the All Access Pass, you are getting access to my How to Lawyer for Real email series. And I am telling you, this is the core of everything I have learned from coaching hundreds of lawyers all over the world. It's all in this program, and it's founded on this kind of thought work. You are going to get emails trickled into your inbox over the course of 6 weeks that are going to help you understand how to pursue any goal, how we sabotage ourselves, how to start thinking differently, how to transform any relationship. In addition to that, you're going to get weekly guided meditations as well to help you strengthen that muscle of identifying those thoughts. You're going to get a habit tracker, a copy of the Lawyer Life Survival Guide, my How to Find Legal Clients workbook, a billable hour tracker and planner. I'm telling you, this is everything you need to change everything about your legal career, your mind, and your life. So congratulations to those of you that upgraded to that pass. You are going to get access to that How to Lawyer for Real email series. And I hope that you find it as useful and life transforming as I have. In closing, I want to just reiterate that none of us are broken. We just suffer the same ailment of having human brains with some programming that maybe isn't that helpful to accomplishing our goals. But now you know. Now you know how our brain can sometimes work against us. And that's really powerful information because it gives you the tools that you need to start reprogramming those patterns. I want to invite all of you to begin paying a little bit more attention to your thinking and the thoughts that drive the actions in your life and create the emotions behind those actions, and see where that awareness takes you. Just because something is true for us doesn't mean that it's helpful, and it doesn't mean that it's something we should be putting our energy behind. So today, please take this with you. Pay attention to what's happening up here and in here. Use the workbook, join the Lawyer Life Collective, take advantage of that How to Lawyer for Real email series. I hope that if you take nothing else from today's session, take this. You control your thinking. It doesn't have to control you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. You can find more information on me and my coaching, as well as my podcast and books at thelawyerlifecollective.com. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the seminar.